It wasn't the kind of moment you plan for, but it ended up defining everything. One laugh. That's all it took. Jaime Kern Lima fire back, or post a long-winded notes app statement. She simply laughed. And somehow that single effortless sound did more damage to Meghan Markle's carefully polished image than 100 headlines ever could. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't loud. But it carried the weight of someone who's seen the game played far too many times and isn't impressed anymore. Let's rewind. Meghan Markle had just joined Jamie's podcast, her first ever appearance that wasn't entirely on her own terms. No production crew in her corner, no pre-approved talking points. Just two women, two microphones, and a conversation that took an unexpected turn. When Meghan slipped in a subtle jab, calling Jaime a user and a hypocrite, the room didn't tense. Jaime didn't even blink. She smirked, and then came that laugh. Dry, effortless, and loaded. The kind of laugh that speaks louder than words ever could. Here's why it landed so hard. Jaime Kern Lima doesn't need clout from Meghan Markle. This is a woman who built a billion-dollar company with her own hands. She didn't marry into royalty. She didn't inherit fame. She earned every inch of her spotlight. She once wiped off her full face of makeup live on television to show women what real skin looks like. Redness, rosacea, texture. No filters, no edits, just raw truth. That truth sold for over $1 billion when she handed IT Cosmetics to L'Oreal in 2016. No pity press tour required. So when Meghan tried to paint her as a hypocrite, you could almost hear the collective eye roll from every woman who's followed Jaime's journey. It wasn't just petty, it was absurdly off base. Meghan's brand, if we're honest, has turned into a cocktail of curated sadness and passive-aggressive empowerment. She talks about truth, but always through a soft filter and a sob story. Every setback becomes a struggle. Every criticism is misogyny. Every fallout is someone else's fault. Jaime, by contrast, doesn't sell victimhood. She sells resilience. She mentors women without broadcasting it. She invests in people without turning it into a marketing campaign. She shows up not for applause, but because she genuinely means it. That's what made Meghan's jab so strange. It was like trying to throw shade at the sun. Pointless. And here's the kicker. Jaime didn't need to defend herself. Her entire life is the defense. She's faced thousands of rejections, chased a dream people openly mocked, and built a company no one wanted to fund. But she kept showing up. Pitching, working, believing. Now, she sits at the top with zero drama, zero scandals, and a legacy built on grit, not gossip. Meanwhile, Meghan's circle keeps shrinking. First the royal family, then Spotify, then Netflix. Now, even the industry that once welcomed her is quietly stepping back. No one's saying it outright, but many are thinking it. She's exhausting. Not because she's outspoken, not because she's emotional, but because it often feels like she's performing empowerment rather than living it. That's what made Jaime's laugh so powerful. It didn't dismiss Meghan's pain. It rejected the performance. Empowerment isn't a storyline or a brand. It's a way of living. And Jaime has been living it long before Meghan learned how to curate it for the camera. That moment revealed something bigger. The curtain has been lifting on Meghan's brand for some time now. People aren't buying it the way they once did. Not because her story lacks power, but because the delivery has become predictable. Empowerment, injustice, victimhood, repeat. What was once bold and disruptive now feels like background noise. And in Hollywood, noise only works when it's profitable. Lately, the Sussex narrative hasn't been. Executives are tired of delays, clashing press stories, and stalled projects. Meetings feel heavy before they even start. It's not about disrespecting Meghan's platform. It's about expectations that never seem to be met. Jaime Kern Lima, by contrast, is everything Meghan isn't right now. Clean, consistent, unshakable. She doesn't weaponize her past or package her pain into Netflix specials. Her credibility comes from what she's built, not what she's endured. And that's what makes her such a threat. Because Jaime lives the empowerment Meghan only markets. When you're in the presence of someone who's faced real rejection, survived real struggle, and still built an empire without creating enemies or spectacle, you feel it. Meghan felt it. That tension wasn't about a petty exchange. It was about being seen. Not the polished version you want the world to see, but the unfiltered truth underneath. And Meghan knew Jaime saw her. That's why the laugh hit so hard. Behind it was a woman who had been underestimated and dismissed, just as Meghan claims to have been, but who emerged with a billion-dollar business and a legacy grounded in sincerity. Meghan calls herself a disruptor. Jaime actually is one. On that podcast, Meghan was meant to be the empowering guest, the headline draw. Instead, she became the cautionary tale. While Jaime spoke with calm, measured clarity, Meghan came across as restless. The longer she talked, the clearer it became. Her message wasn't evolving. Old grievances were repackaged as wisdom. Emotional turbulence was reframed as growth. But true growth moves past the people who hurt you. Even Meghan's version of female empowerment seemed to orbit around herself. Every story, every takeaway, circling back to her own pain and transformation. It wasn't about collective strength. It was about personal validation. Real empowerment doesn't crave the spotlight. It doesn't need volume. Only authenticity. Jaime understands that. Meghan, perhaps not yet. The industry is noticing. That's why producers are passing. That's why allies are quietly stepping away. It's not personal. It's business. Repeat the same story too many times, and people stop listening. Meghan didn't lose that room because she was too emotional. She lost it because the act is wearing thin. Jaime's laugh didn't just reveal it, it closed the conversation. The truth is, Meghan once commanded rooms. Now, she makes them tense. No one knows which version will show up, the articulate advocate or the defensive narrator of a never-ending struggle. When unpredictability becomes your brand, people start walking on eggshells, not out of fear, but fatigue. Hollywood has shifted. The Sussex fairy tale that once felt fresh now feels like a rerun. Executives aren't energized, they're drained. Every pitch carries baggage. Every deal needs PR babysitting, and every meeting risks turning into a power struggle. Then, there's Jaime Kern Lima. No entourage, no demands, no drama, just a track record that speaks louder than any sob story ever could. She brings stability, not spectacle. That's why people trust her. That's why her podcast didn't need gimmicks. Her name alone drew listeners. Meghan could have learned from that moment. That disagreement isn't always an attack, and challenge can be an invitation to grow. Instead, she spun the story, painted Jaime as a user, and cast herself as the wronged party. People saw through it. The laugh wasn't about humiliation. It was a boundary. A signal that not every woman will play along with the victimhood script. Jaime wasn't dismissing pain. She was rejecting the performance. Because when empowerment becomes a costume, eventually someone notices the zipper. Jaime noticed. Insiders say producers now pass without hesitation. Not because Meghan is controversial, but because she's exhausting to manage. The brand feels over-controlled. Every conversation is a minefield. Every relationship feels transactional. When your presence carries that much heaviness, the calls stop. It's not hate, it's fatigue. Fatigue from curated sorrow, vague accusations, and turning every fallout into a moral crusade. Meghan doesn't just burn bridges, she blows them up and then writes a memoir about the ashes. People are tired of it. Meanwhile, Jaime keeps winning. Quietly, consistently. Her lifestyle brand sells out in under an hour. Her mentoring sessions are booked solid. Her reputation is spotless. She's building a legacy on grace, grit, and substance, not palace drama. Meghan once had the power to shape culture. Now, she's fighting to hold attention. And attention has always been her currency. If that runs out, there's nothing left to keep the brand afloat. No royal title, no production deal, just noise. Jaime's laugh wasn't a takedown. It was a mirror. And in it, Meghan saw a woman clinging to a narrative the world no longer believes. She can still reinvent herself. But it will take honesty, humility, and a willingness to stop performing and start living. Until then, Jaime Kern Lima will remain what Meghan once promised to be. A woman who empowers without turning it into a production.